All right. So before you start with your design, the first thing you need to do is to structure your project. You don't just arrange things anyhow. So we need to have our projects folder. And since I want everything to always be available inside this particular folder, that's why I have this. But if I want, I can actually open this single folder in VS Code so that I will not be bothered with the other items that are here. But I think because I remember that one for now. So I will focus more on the or only focus on this P3 folder here. And as you can see under the P3 folder, we have these three files, which is our normal files, which is the HTML file, the CSS file, and the JavaScript file. But there's some stuff that is missing here, which is that our assets that is coming from the project that we want to work on. And inside this asset, that's where you're going to have all the images and the fonts that are being used for the project. So I'm going to drag it under this P3 so that we can have the folder there. And anytime I need to have access to anything inside it, I just need to use our linking that you've known already there like that. So under the images, as you can see, we have the icon for the list, icon for sources, illustration sign up, and this other one that is there too. So this is for the mobile icon and this is for the desktop icon. And I think we're only going to use one icon, but let's see. We should be able to handle the mobile design too like that because we want to deploy it. And since we're going to be deploying it, we need to make sure that it is mobile responsive because anybody can check it. And if you go there, you can use any device so to check the site out. And if you are checking it on the mobile and we did not really take care of the mobile, it looks somehow to people there that what are you doing and it's looking somehow. So we are going to handle the mobile view too there like that. So just like what I mentioned before, inside this fonts folder, this is where you're going to see the font that is being used for the project there like that. And when we get to the CSS part, you're going to see how to include any local font that you have in your project there like that. Not that is every time you always connect to Google Fonts to bring something there. But once you have the font already, because that sometimes you are using custom font that is not on Google Font, so you include in your project and you link them together like that. So the next thing we need to open is this index, but I can't copy it inside this place because it's going to clash with my index.html. One way of doing it is by renaming this one or duplicate it and put it here so that I can copy the text. But I'm going to open this one with another program so that I can have it in a separate side there. And as you can see, we're going to have all the text that is on the design. So all this text that you're seeing on the design, everything has been typed out for you. You only just to go to that place, get it and put it there at the appropriate section there. And for the other one too, which is this thank you, if you look at it too, as you can see, the message is there. But don't forget, this one is going to be dynamic stuff like that. So you're going to see how to represent that one, which is by using JavaScript later on to replace whatever it needs to be there like that. But first, we need to deal with our layout. So let me go back to the stop. But when you are designing, please, anytime you are working on a design and the designer or the UI UX people give you design, so you need to look out for every scenario of your page content before you start diving into the design there. Because right now, if you just use this one to design your site, there's a lot of things that is going to be missing here. If you just use this one to just do the design. So when you are given a design there, so if they want to do something on the page, you need to get the design for everything. So what do I mean by everything? You need to know how the site is going to look like when there is no error, when there is something that can cause error, what am I going to display when there is error, or when everything is successful, what am I going to show? Those are the things you need to get from the design there. And as you can see from here, we have everything. So this is the UI when nothing is going wrong or when the user just visited the site like that. This is what it's going to show to them. But once they type something there, as you can see that some element are now coming out there that was not there on that previous one. So which means you need to account for this one here. Even though it's not going to show by default, but it will still come out later on when something is going on, like when there is error on the page there. So which means when you want to work on this side, you need to account from this text here so that by the time you are dealing with your CSS, This one will be on the right hand side, and this one will be on the left hand side. So when you want to work on a design, the first thing you need to do is to look around the design or the file that is given to you, and look at how you can incorporate everything together. Not just that, oh, you just see one of the design, you just start like that. No, you are not dealing with all those basic stuff again now. So there's a lot of things that is going to be hidden by default on the page, but when something happens, they are going to come outside later on. So all of them are going to be on your page, but when you just focus on one items for your design there, you are going to miss a lot of things that's supposed to be on the page when you are dealing with the HTML. So when you want to build the HTML, you need to look around for all the scenario that can happen on that particular page. So one of the scenario here is that we only have the email here, there is nothing on the right. But when you start with your design and you just focus on this one, you are going to miss the element that's supposed to be here. And if you don't arrange them properly, you know that you'll not be able to use the CSS to just move them the way it's supposed to be added. So which means you need to plan your page based on whatever the UI that is given to you, and you have to look at all of them and see whether there is something that is hidden or it's not even like it's not even on the page at all there. So that is the first thing you need to do. You need to first look at for the way you are going to couple everything that you have on the page together. So if you want to design now, this is what I'll actually focus on. If I want to do the design, I will not focus on what I have here like this, because I know that this one here actually have all the elements of the page, because this one is here, this one is there, all these other one too are there. So when I want to structure now, this is what I will use to structure my page. But later on, when I'm dealing with the CSS, I'm not going to hide this one by default, and JavaScript will now bring it out when there is error. Because if you look at it, the only time it will come outside is when there is error. But when you are doing your layout of the page, you have to include it. Everything will show by default. But when you get to the CSS, you now start adding what's supposed to hide and show what's supposed to show by default, and JavaScript will now do all the necessary magic that it needs to do later on there like that. So that's how to work. Oh. You don't just work on one part and you now be expecting this thing to do it for you later on. No, you have to look for all the elements that needs to appear on that screen. You are going to type everything, but some of them are not going to show by default, and when you need them, that's where they are going to pop out by using your CSS and JavaScript to do all this magic. So which means when we want to structure the page now, this is what we'll be using. And again too, I mentioned that this screen here, this one, we're not going to put it on a separate page. It's going to be a modal, and since it's going to be a modal, it means that it's going to be on this page too, just that it's going to be hidden by default until you click on this button and everything is okay. That's where JavaScript will now bring it out there. So which means all the elements for this design, they are going to be inside a single HTML file, but some of them are going to be hidden by default, and when we need them, they will come outside with the help of some JavaScript stuff that we're going to add to our page. Not that you're going to create a separate page, like this is one on its own, so here too, this is going to be another one. No, this is just a single HTML file, but some element there are not coming out by default, while some of them are going to show there. And again too, sometimes they will show, but based on what is going on, you are going to hide it or show it if it is not shown before there like that. So now we're going to dive into our HTML design, and since here everything is going to be inside our single file, so we're going to put everything inside HTML file, and I'm giving you how you are going to react with a real word scenario there. Not that you just jump directly to one of the design. You first look at all the design that is given to you. You see the one that you can put together and the one you cannot put together. So those that need to go together, all the HTML are going to be typed. By default, you don't focus on whether this thing is showing or is not showing. Your own is inside the HTML. You want to focus on the layout. And since HTML determine the way things are going to be styled, you need to make sure that you arrange them appropriately. And you know that if you want to structure this in now, there is some layout you need to do with this design, starting from your page. So for example, here our page is going to be this, which is this background one here, or let me put this in at the center there. because the entire stuff is going to be the body. But inside the body, as you can see, we are going to have like a container here, and this container is the one that is going to hold everything that we have on the page. Because if you look at it, everything is inside this particular white item here. But if you look at it too, this box is divided into two. We have this section, and at the same time we have the section that is holding this image here. And you know that inside this left side, that's where you have a major work to do. So inside it we have our h1. After the h1 there, we have this paragraph, and after the paragraph you have your list, which is going to be like a custom list that we're going to work on. Then from there you now have the form. So inside it you now have the form. You see the way everything is being joined together. So this is how you are going to lay out, because the major thing I know that a lot of people used to miss is the layout. They always want to focus on the look, but they don't really focus more on the layout. And if you don't do your layout properly, there's no way your CSS is going to work too. Because if you are trying to use all these layout property and you don't lay out them correctly, then this thing is not going to work according to the way it's supposed to work there, like that. And if you look at it inside this list, you're going to have each one of them there. So this is another group entirely, and this is another one too, because you're going to be dealing with custom style there. So, and again too, this is another one. But all of them, they're in a particular group so that you can control them together. Not that when you are controlling this one, it will be affecting what is outside of that group. So we don't want it like that. The same thing too inside this box. The reason why they are being grouped together is because this is a form, and inside the form you are going to have this group on its own too, like that. And again, this is just normal button that is going to be down here. But inside this form group too, if you want to do it, there's a lot of things that is going there too. So if you want to do it there, we are going to have a group. So let me use another color. So we're going to have a group which is going to be this blue one here, which is the one that will be holding the email, the label, and this error message here. And after that group, you are going to have the actual input that is going to be under it. And once you lay out all these things, later on now, you will now use your CSS to make sure that everything is arranged properly like this. You will not have it like this when you are dealing with the normal HTML. You just see that things are going to be placed anyhow. But by the time you lay it out correctly like this, the next thing you do is now to use CSS properties that we talked about to make sure that everything now looks nice like the way it is on the page here. So you focus more on the layout when you are starting there, not that you'll be looking at the final design. Okay, yeah, it's supposed to go to the right, but no, look at the way the elements are coupled together or their layout. So group them, and when you are done with your grouping, when you are not dealing with CSS, that's why you now focus. Okay, this thing is having border radius, it's not having border radius, it is having white background, it's not having white background, it is blue background, and so forth like that. When you are dealing with layout, you don't focus on that. You focus on how the elements are coupled or joined together to form that design that you have there. So you focus more on the layout when you are dealing with the HTML part, and don't forget, make sure that you get all the elements. Any one of them that is hidden, get them and know where they are going to be displayed. So you use the one that have all the elements where they are going to be displayed there, and you couple your design or you couple the layout according to the way it's supposed to be. Because here now, but to use the other one, you see that we are not going to get what we are expecting there. Because now, if I want to do it, I will only focus more on the email. I won't be focusing on what is on the right. And since I can't see what is on the right, what I can just do is just to use this one as label directly and use input here, like that. But when you now get to the other part, you see that when you now want to do the other one, you now say, oh, something is actually missing here. Then you have to go back and do the layout. Because if you don't do it the layout, the stuff will not work correctly. And if you don't do it, you start saying that you start blaming CSS that it's not doing what it's supposed to do. But you are the one that did not lay out your page correctly there. So the first thing you need to do is to check all the elements on the page, they are present, and from there you'll be able to lay out whatever you need to do there, like that. Hope you guys are still here, and I'm not talking too
Yes.
much like that. And this is get from someone that is working compared to someone that is not teaching you what to do, because the difference between them are like that. And that's why you learn in school that, oh, you know Laplace, but applying the Laplace, how do you apply the stuff on the work? So that's the difference there, like that. So Just because you know the CSS doesn't mean you know how to couple them together. So first of all, you must lay out your page correctly. And once you lay it out correctly, then you can now apply your CSS anyhow you want, so that your design is going to come out the way it's supposed to be again. And please, when you are working to, always put in mind that you are working for both the desktop and the mobile, because I actually skip that part, and that is why you see that I'm grouping this side and this side together, because on the mobile, look at it, see that the stuff was switch, even though all this one here there is no more difference, but if you look at it, the content are not placed side by side again, they are now stacked on top of each other there. And that's the reason why you see that my layout will actually take care of that, because if I'm using this my layout now, I know that from CSS I can actually make this one to come first and make this one to be last on the mobile, and when it is on the desktop I can place them side by side, and that's it. Once you do your layout properly, you can use all the necessary CSS the way you want them to be, like that. So first, layout. As you can see now, when you are looking at the layout without seeing the content, this is how things are going to be grouped. And what are you going to use to do this? You'll be using your HTML to couple everything together there, like that. So let's jump into our design by start putting everything together. So because of the experience there, normally I don't draw this line, I will do it from my head, but because I'm showing you what you need to do, that's what I'm drawing the line there, like that. But once you are good with this thing, or once you are okay with this thing, you don't even need to start drawing the line every time. What you just do is you do it in your head, and based on the way you do the stuff there, you start putting everything together inside your editor there. So let me generate the page content, where we're going to call this one our newsletter sign up. So we're going to call it, because this is not the full website, it's just like part of the site. But you know, if you go to the site, there's a lot of things that are there, but we're only focusing on one part of it, and that's how you're supposed to learn first. Not that you start big, you start small by picking different elements on the page, and once you are okay, then you can now combine all of them together later on. But if you start big, I get tired along the way, because there's a lot of things you need to do with those big items there, like that. So yeah, we're going to call it the news letter, this in there, new letter sites, like that, and in front of it, let me put it JavaScript project, like that. So that's going to be our title. And inside the body now, so we can start with our layout. So we're going to have the main, which is the one that have this white background that is holding this left and the right section. So we're going to have two sections like this. So in order for us to be able to select all these items correctly there, I'm going to give them class, so which is going to be the left section, or let me just call it the content wrapper, like this. So you can call it anything you want. And again too, I'm going to have another one, which is going to be the image wrapper. So there are two. But why am I giving these them name? Because I'm using a name that is representing what they are doing there. It's not a must, but it's always good that you use a descriptive name for your class, so that when you come back to the project later on, say, you don't need to start checking what is going on. From the name, you already know what you are doing at that particular site. For the project that you work on today, you might know everything that is going on with it. But after you come back like 2 or 1 month later on there, you forget everything completely. Like, what am I doing here? What am I trying to do? But based on all these things, to give you the illusion of what you are trying, or the full context of what you are trying to do. Even though some of them might not really give you everything, but through the name, you already know what is going on at that particular site. So let me bring out this in again. As you can see, like what I mentioned before, so we have this is our main, and inside the main we have these two sections. So this is the first one, which is the content wrapper, and again the second one is going to be this our image wrapper. And as you can see, inside this content wrapper, we have this our title, which is the H1 there. Again, we have the text, and apart from the text, we have this list section here, which is another group on the on there. And if you look at it, inside inside this box, we have this each items here. So, and inside each item, you have the image, and you have the text that follows it there. So which means here there are two elements that are joining together, and that's why it has to be in a group, because there is going to be image and there is going to be a paragraph there. And if you want, you can use your UL li, but I won't be using that. I want to use custom element to do this. But if you want, you can actually use the UL, which is going to represent everything. But don't forget, UL will not give you anything like this. You can actually change the image to something like this by using the list style image. But I will not be doing that. I will do the custom one myself. So I'm not going to be using UL or OL to do that one. I want to do it myself by using the element that I want. And again, too, here we're going to have another group, which is this form area. And inside the form, don't forget we have two groups there too. The first one is going to be the one that holds everything at the top, and you're going to have the one that holds this button here. And again too, inside this top section, we are going to have a group that is holding the label and this error message like that. So let's start like that, and I'm going to clean everything, and we're going to be drawing it one by one. So we are focusing on this side, and inside this side we have this title. So let's generate the title. So let's generate the title inside this section, and since it's our major title on the page there like that, so we are going to use h1, which is going to be stay updated like that. And as you can see, I'm not copying the text from what I opened down there, but because this is a small text, so I can really type it compared to just doing copy and paste. So typing it will be faster than me doing copy and paste. But when it comes to this one here, which is the next element inside this group, which is going to be our paragraph, because anything in this form is just paragraph. So I can't be typing this one because it's too long. So since I can't be typing it, we already have all the text that we need, which is what I've explained before. So I just need to copy it, go back to that element and type it out there. And once we type it, we're going to have the content. And as you can see right now, I'm not even checking the results. I don't need to do that. Once you follow the layout correctly, you don't even need to be checking the result. The only time you focus on the result is when you are dealing with your CSS. But when you're dealing with layout, what you focus more is on the arrangement of your element, how you couple them together, not the result that is showing on the browser, because the thing will not show the result you are expecting. So you don't even need to focus on it. What you focus on is the layouts there, and that's what we are doing right now. So we have the left side and we have the right side, and currently here we are focusing on the left side, which is what we call this content wrapper. And inside it, we started with this our h1, followed by this paragraph. And next, the next thing we need to have here is this group of list here, because this one is a list of items and they are grouped. And why am I grouping them together? Because they are the same thing. They goes along with each other. And since they go along with each other, I don't need to jam pack them together with the under content on the page. And that's something that come from the experience. So how do you know when this thing is going to be grouped together or when it's not going to be grouped together? The more you practice this thing, the more you are going to get on this thing that, okay, yeah, I'm supposed to group them. Yeah, I don't need to group them. They're supposed to be separate and so forth like that. So yeah, I'm going to have a div and I'm going to call it list like that. So which is going to be what can I even call it? Let me just give it list. I don't want to waste time on the naming of our classes. And inside this list, as you can see here, you have the item. So if I align the item, so this is the item, which is another group on its own too. And inside that item, we have the image and you have the content. So this is going to be our image, which is given to us already. And inside it, you are going to have the content like this. So inside this place, we need to have another group, which is going to be the item. So which I'm going to call it the list items like this. And this list item, this is the red that is inside. And inside that red item, we're now having the image and we're having the text. So I'm going to have my image like this. And where is the image coming from? Don't forget, we already have access to the asset. So inside the asset, we have the images. And inside the images, we have this icon list. As you can see, we have the icon list. So they're like that. And it's always good that you give it this alt. So which is going to be the icon or list icon like that. It's not a must, but if your image is not loading, this is the text is going to show. And after the text, what do we have there? We have the after the image, we have the text. So where is the text coming from? Again, let's go back to that side and copy what we needed. So this is it here. So copy. I don't need to be typing everything that's already been given to us from the site that we download all these things from, and we just have one of the items here. But to you, it might look like everything is jam packed together. So what you can actually do is to space them from each other based on the grouping that you're dealing with, so that you can actually see what is going on there. So this is one item, this is another one, and you can see this is a group on its own, like that. So I'm separating it from the other items. But inside the list too, as you can see, this one here is just the one of the items that we have on top here. But we need to have it again for this second one. We need to have it for the third one. So what do I need to do? You can just quickly duplicate it 2 times like that. So this is going to be the second one, and this is going to be the third one. The only thing we just need to change now is the text. Not too much, because the image is the same. But if the image is not the same, then you can update the image, but the image are the same. So I will just copy the text like this and replace it with the one I did copy and paste on. So paste the stuff. Later on, you are going to see how to do with something that is dynamic, because most of the things these days they are dynamic. The only thing you just do is one of them, and you just look through over the data that is coming back for you there, and you display it. But you're going to see how to do all this thing later on there when we are dealing with dynamic data. As you can see right now, we have the first item, we have the second item, and we have the third item. And if I close this one, as you can see, we're not going to be bothered with that section again, so we can focus on the next section. And you can actually see the result if you want. Just that this thing is going to show you what you are expecting there, because it's not going to give us the real stuff that we want. And there, as you can see, everything is all arranged properly. But through our CSS later on, we're going to make sure that everything is okay. And when you're dealing with layout, you don't focus on what is showing to you, because it's not give you what you're expecting there. You focus more on your layout, how you put all the elements together there. So let me go back to where we are there. So bring back this one. So what do we need to do? Yeah, so the next thing we need to do is to move to the next section. And what's the next section there? The next section is going to be this entire area here, which is our form. So I'll be using form to represent that, but you can put it can use your div or any other grouping element there, but I'm not going to be doing that. I don't want to do too much of CSS stuff. So I'm going to remove this action because we don't need it. I'm going to be interacting with this form through JavaScript there. So inside the form is going to add like the group yeah, this blue line, and inside that form we're going to have two block there. The first block is going to be the group of these items here, and the second one is going to be this button that we have down here. So what can we do here? So we need to create another group, which I'm going to call it input group. So why am I calling it the input group? Because that area is just all about the input, just like it have extra information attached to it. And one of the information there is this section here. I can't just type label like that. These two items, they are side by side, and you know that if you want to place the two of them side by side, you need to put them in a group so that you can display it as flex, and you know that it's going to be in row by default, and that you just justify the content space between, and you have the results there like that. But in order for this thing to work, you need to put them in a group, which I'm going to use the div with the class label group like this. So you can call it anything you want, but I'm giving a descriptive name that represents what is going on there. So if I want, I can just say label error group like that. So, or I can just call it label. CSS doesn't care what you name your class there. So, and inside this place now, we're going to have our label like that, which is going to be for email. What am I using this thing for? I'm connecting it to my input. I have not really typed yet, but once I type the email, I'm going to give it this particular ID like that. And what is the text there? It is a email address. So we have this our label. So after the label, what do we need to have there? We're going to be having the box for the error message. So I'm going to call it P here, and this is going to this is the error like that. Or let's just use the same error that they used there. But this error is not going to show, but for now we don't care about that. That's the job of CSS and JavaScript to show or to hide the stuff. But here we are dealing with layout, so we need to put everything. So, but later on, the CSS and JavaScript will be doing their magic to either add or remove a particular item. But right now that we are working, we don't care about that. The layout is what we are focusing on. So we need to arrange all the elements. But when you get to the CSS and JavaScript, then you can now start with all those your hiding or no hiding of the element there like that. So we just finished with the group of label here, so which is starting from here all to this side. So the next one we need is the input itself, which is the box that we actually have here, and our input is going to be of the type email. So the name is going to be email, which is something I don't need, but I'm just putting it there. So no, what did I type? It's going to be email name. I like that. And the ID too is going to be email. Why am I giving the ID as email? Because I want to connect it to this label. Whenever you put it as 4, that's what is going to be the ID of the element. And what are you doing there? You are connecting the two elements together. So which means if you go to the page and you click on the label, you see that it will activate the box automatically there like that. This thing is really good when you are dealing with radio or some other element that you don't actually need to click on that element before you can activate them. So you connect the label to the elements are there, and once you connect them together, you see that the stuff is going to work automatically, or it's going to activate your box when you click on the label are there. So the label is doing this, HTML is doing the magic for you. You don't need any JavaScript before you do that, but it's something you can actually use JavaScript to do too, but it's just waste of time because HTML can give you this functionality out of the box there like that. So we are done with that input group, so I can close it group. But after the group, we need a button that is going to submit our form. So and inside this button here, we have this text which is subscribe to monthly newsletter. So I'm lazy to type that one too. I'm too lazy to type that one. So what do I need to do? So where's my stuff? So subscribe to monthly newsletter like this. If I put this thing there, we're going to have the content of the left side there, which is going to be this content wrapper. So we just finished with everything that is on the left side. So I can collapse this section, and again we move to the next one, which is the image side. And this one is nothing much. There, if you want, you can use this because I can see that from the design we are giving two image there like that. So if you want to do it, you can actually include the image here through the HTML there, and you are going to be hiding one from the other one based on whether you're on a mobile or you're on desktop. Another way of doing it is by applying this in as background image. So that's another way of working with this one here. So I think let me go with the image. So we are going to, if you want to do that now, it means you are going to put the two images here, which means you are going to be seeing them right now. But through the CSS, we are going to hide one based on the screen that we're working on. Because if you look at it here, let me clean this line here. So if I go down, as you can see, the way the image is showing on the mobile is not the same image that you have here. So we have the two images in our project assets. So if you go under the images, you see that we have the illustration sign up, the one for the mobile. This is the desktop one, and we have the one for the mobile there. And we need to show one based on the screen that we are working on like that. So if you are working on the mobile screen, you know that this is the one you need to show. And when you are working on the desktop, you need to show this one. But if you want to use image here, there is no way you just talk to image like that okay, oh, this is what I want you to show on mobile and this is what I want to show on desktop. It's not that easy to work with. You can actually do it with some source set and so forth like that, but there's a lot of things you have to be typing here. So what we would want to do is that we are going to use our CSS to either hide the mobile one or to hide the desktop based on the screen that we are currently working on. But from the layout there, don't forget you always have everything. It's the CSS and JavaScript that will do the magic later on. And if it's something that CSS cannot do, then use JavaScript to do it like that. But we're not going to be using JavaScript to change the image. We are going to have the two of them, but the CSS is going to handle that based on the screen that we're working on. So that's one method. So you have your image here and you include the image, and you hide one based on the screen you're working on. Or instead of you doing that, you can actually apply the image as background on this your wrapper here, or you can even create another nested items inside it. And from there, you use your background image. And again, too, the background image you use is depending on the screen you are working on. So for the mobile, you include the mobile one as a background image. And when you get to the desktop, then you switch it to the desktop background image. And these are the different ways of you applying this content there like that. But I'm going to go with this method. We're going to be using the other method in the next class if we have something like that. So here now, let me just include the image for the desktop. So as you can see, we have the desktop one, and at the same time, we have the mobile one. But how do I target these two from my CSS? I can use some crazy selector like select the first image that is inside image wrapper, or select the second. But let me just go with the class. So this one, I'm going to give it the desktop like that. And for this one, I'm going to give it class mobile so that I can quickly target it. But if you want, you can use other selector like that. But if I go to the page, you see that we can see both of them. And if you look at it, they are not the same image. The way this one is not the same thing as this one. I cannot use one to replace other. It will not look like that design. And since design is already giving you all the images you need, you need to swipe them. But right now, we're only dealing with layout. And as you can see, everything did not look like the way it's supposed to look like that on the design. So what do we need to do next? We need to start with our CSS. But before we get to CSS, there is something that is missing here. And what is missing? I hope you guys are still there. Hope you are following.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So what is missing here? Don't forget we said we want to make this one to be a modal. We don't want it to be a separate page. And since it's going to be a modal, it means it's something that needs to be on this page. And since it's going to be on this page, we need to care for that one too. Like that. This is it here. So we need to care for this thing. Just that the design that we want there is going to be different from this. This one will still be there, but this background here is not going to be the same thing because we are not having a different page, or even can be the same page. You either hide this one or show this one based on whether they subscribe or not. But I don't want to use that method. I want to use a modal method so that you can see how you can create a modal starting from the HTML part, the CSS part, and the JavaScript part of the stuff. So since we are going to be doing that, so after this main, I'm going to create another element here, which I'm going to call it the modal wrapper like this. And what is the wrapper? The wrapper is the one that you are seeing this background. This deep blue background is what we are calling the wrapper. But this is not the background that's going to be there. It's going to be a background that you normally see on any modal there. So if I expand this stuff and go back to that page, click on this item, look at it. This is a wrapper here, which is this background that you're seeing. But you see, the background still allows you to see what is at the back, just that you cannot interact with it there. So this is how we're going to create our background for our modal, so that it's people that open the store will actually know that this thing is opening on top of the site, or not that it's having its own separate page or it's removing other element. It's other element are still there, just that this one is now on top of the content that is there. So that's what we are going to do too, like that. So let me go back to the page, and here that's the reason why I'm creating this modal wrapper, which is a background. But inside the wrapper, we're actually going to have the content. So we have the wrapper, and inside the wrapper, you now have the actual box, which is this white here. And inside the box, that's where you have your icon, you have your text, you have the paragraph, and at the same time, you have the button like that. So this is the layout of this item. So we have the wrapper, and inside the wrapper we need to have the div, which is going to be the modal itself, so which is the one that actually, or I can just call it modal body. You can call it anything, work, call it border, call it anything you want to call it. Just know that that's what you're going to be using from CSS to target stuff. So inside this side we have the image. So where's the image coming from? It's coming from the assets there, and we have these images, and what is icon sources, so it should be this one. Then after this sources, so I can even give it an icon sources like that. Like the image is not showing, which is going to show, but what if the image is not showing? Maybe the user network is bad, so that's what is going to show in place of that one. So yeah, I'm going to have my H3 as a head in there, which is going to be thank you, like this. Or if I want, I can use it, but I'm using, I don't need to type this thing. Let me go back to where we used to get our text. So thanks for subscribing. That's my T. So copy like that. Let me move this thing to this side because I'm going to do a lot of copy and paste for the text. So after this one, we need a P, which is going to be the paragraph where we have all the text. But this is not all about this side because this one here, something is missing. And what is missing there is this email part. This one now we're going to be changing it later on from JavaScript based on what you type from the main section there. So since this side, you need to change it without affecting other content. What do you do there? You put it in its own element. Even if you look at it from the design, you see that it have a separate design from the other one. It is really bold, while the other one are not bold. So which means you need to put it in a separate element like that, which I'm going to be using the B tag because I don't want to apply, or let's apply the stuff from CSS. Let's apply the bold stuff from CSS. So I'm going to use span here. And span is a grouping element that you can use for inline content. So this one here, I'm not using the div. Why am I not using div? Is because here I don't want it to be on a separate line from the other content. So if I save it and scroll down, you see that it's still there with the other content. It just look as if they are the same, but it's not because it's a separate element. But assuming I use div here, you see that one will be obvious because it will put them on a separate line. Div is a block element, so which means anything beside it, it will shift them out of the way. And as you can see, it's creating its own space, which is not something I want. And I can now use CSS to bring them back later on, but that's waste of typing. So I can just use the element that is meant for something like that. So span, you can use it for inline grouping. So which means whatever content you have inside it, it will go along with the other inline element that are there before you put it inside that grouping like that. So what next do we have? We have the button. So inside this button here, so inside the button, what do we have? We have these dismiss messages, which is what is going to close the mode bar there. So dismiss. See a lot of things we are doing. So that's the reason why you see that when you are working on a design, it normally take time because you need to look at a lot of things that is going on your page first. Not that you just jump into HTML straight for HTML is not just simple stuff like that. Though. You have to look at a lot of things that is going on your page like that. Even though it might not actually take this time because I'm explaining some stuff, that's why it's looking like it's long. But when you're actually working on a real page that have a lot of content, it might take you a lot of time, like minutes, hours, depending on the type of the content you are working with and how you need to couple them together like that. And as you can see, after we put everything together, it's not looking like what we have on the design. And that's one thing I always tell you. Don't focus on the full look when you are dealing with the HTML arrangement. Focus on the arrangement. Later on, by the time you get into the CSS part, that's where you now start bringing the element to look like the way you want it to be. But first, the layout must be done properly. If you look at this one is not looking like any model. This thing that we have done here, it's not looking at any model, but we structure the stuff in a way that we are going to style it that will make it to look like model. And that's what you always focus on the HTML part, which is what you don't get when you are doing some stuff yourself or when you are just looking at some random video or whatever stuff. They will just jump some steps from you. They will just, okay, arrange things like this. But why are you arranging it like that? It's because of what you want to do later on. He wants to do some CSS. But in order for that CSS to be proper, or in order for the CSS to work for that particular element, he needs to structure that element in that way. And that's what you two you'll be looking at for. And that's why you see that I'm drawing line, and everything. It's something I can just keep all those parts and start arranging my content straightforward. But why am I doing that? Is because of the way we have this element. So, and since you have the element in this way, then you need to couple all these elements together in this way too, so that you'll be able to use your CSS to arrange the content to look like the way you want it to be like that. So the way I arrange my own, somebody else can just come and arrange it in a different way. I'm still going to have the same result because it's following its own arrangement here. But if you don't arrange the stuff correctly, then CSS will not help you everything needs to be arranged there. And we are done with the HTML parts of this stuff. We are done with the HTML parts of the stuff. So what do we have next? We need our CSS, because we need to start making sure that everything is now according to the design that we have there, like that. And how do we make it so what we need to do now is to link this our page to the CSS by using the linking CSS, because I've created all these files already. So if I open my folder structure, close this assets, you see that I already have the three files. Again, too, let me include the JavaScript. But right now we're not dealing with anything with the script, so I'm going to include it here. This is not something I'm supposed to be explaining again. What I'm doing here, because I already know what is going on here. I already know how to include JavaScript on your page. So now we've included all our external files that we needed there, which is this style and the JS. But right now we're not going to be focusing on the JS. We want to focus on the style of the content on our page there, like that. And the first thing I want to do right now, in order not for us to be bothered with, because there are two things on this page. We have the content that we want to show to the user first, because if you look at it on the page, what you are going to have is just only this one. But when you submit your form, that's where the modal is going to pop out. And I don't want the design of modal to be disturbing what I'm doing here. So I'm going to hide it for now, so that we can only focus on this part. And when we are done with this part, when we are done with this area, like that, then we now hide this one too and we work on the modal, so that we only focus on one at a time. We are not focusing on the two items like that. If you are working with this thing using framework later on, you are going to see that they are inside their own separate file. You not even have them together, so you only focus on each one of them. But right now we are not using any framework and we are dealing with normal HTML and CSS, so we need to add some element that we don't really need right now, so that we can focus on the one that we need. So, and that's what I will be doing here. But before I do that, the first thing we need to do is to connect our local font, because when you want to use your local font, what you need to do is to tell the browser that this font that I want to be using in my project, anytime I mention this so font, this is where you are going to get the file. Because any font you mention, the browser will check it whether it's on your system or not. If it is on your system, it's going to use it. And if it's not on your system, then it will default to its normal. For example, here now, if I type font family and if I just type Warisola right now, you see that nothing will happen, because I don't have any font on my system that is this Warisola. But I want to talk to this browser that anytime I mention Warisola as my font family, this is where you are going to get that font. So you can actually connect any name to any font there, like that. So how do we connect it? We already have the fonts in this our asset. We have two fonts. We have this Roboto and we have this Roboto regular. The first one is Roboto Bold, which means the one we want to use when we are dealing with the bold text, and the one we're going to be using when we're dealing with the normal text. But how do you talk to the browser that use Roboto Bold when you are using the bold in your CSS, or use the Roboto regular when you are dealing with the normal text there? So everything is what you can talk to CSS there. And I'm going to be doing that at the top here by using as the font this thing there. So we have the font face, and this font face here is what you can use to define the font family and where the browser is going to get the font from. So these are the basic stuff, but this is not all. You can actually specify the font weight too, which is what I want to do like that. So I want to do for the bold one. But here, anytime you mention this font family, anytime the browser see this font family, for example, Warisola here. So anytime I use Warisola as font family, go to this URL and pick that font for me. This is what Google is doing for you behind the scene. Anytime you connect to the Google font, it will do all this magic for you behind the scene. The file you are connecting to your HTML file, this is what it's doing behind the scene. If you load that URL from the browser, you are going to see something like this, but more complex than this one. But yeah, we're going to deal with the basic one. And anytime I mention Warisola, what did I want to do? I want this thing to go inside my assets, inside the font, and I want it to load this regular Roboto here like this. So which means anywhere I'm using Warisola for my font family, come here and look for that font, and the name of the font is this Roboto regular, which is coming from this particular folder. And if I save it now, can you see everything on the page has changed? Which is the same thing that is using, as you can see, it's using that regular tool for bold and is using it for normal text. But I don't want you to use this one for the bold. I want you to use something anytime I bold, anytime I'm using a separate font or the font weight is different, but I will not be using a separate one. This is the same thing I will be using, so I will duplicate it down because I want to connect to another font like that. And this one is not going to be regular, it's going to be bold. But when do you want it to use bold? Because if you do it like this, it will start using bold for everything. Don't forget the way CSS work. Whatever it sees last, that's what it's going to use. So you see this one, you say Warisola, that's the first one. And down here, he's not seeing another one again with the same name. So which means this is what I will go with. It will abandon the one at the top. But I don't want it to abandon the one at the top. I want it to only use this one anytime we are dealing with a font of bold there. So when you just say your font should be bold, for example here, you know all H1 by default, they have this font weight of bold or 700. So anything that have this font weight of bold 700, yeah, is when I want this thing to use this particular one. So how do you talk to browser to do that one for you? Here you are going to specify the font weight. So here is only time that I have 700. That's when I want it to use this font. So if I call Warisola and Warisola, wherever I'm using it, if the font is just 700, go with the normal one. But if the font is 700, this is what I want you to switch to it. These are conditions you are giving the browser to use. When the font family is Warisola and the font width is 700, this is the file it's going to use, or this is the font it's going to use. But if this condition is not matching there, then it's going to go with the normal one because all these conditions must be matched before it will use it. And if I save it now, as you can see, it's using something else for this and it's using another thing for this font weight like that. And again, if I select my what's that? Let me select the label, and if I give it a font weight of 700 here, look at it by default, is using normal font weight, which is the 400 there, and that is why I'm using this top. But now if I change the font weight to 700, you see that it will switch to this one too, and that's what we are saying here. So when the font family is Warisola and the font weight is 700, this is the font we want it to use. But if it is just normal Warisola and no font weight, then this is what it's going to go with by default like that. So if I change this into 800 like that, and it will start using this one. It's still using this one, no, it's not using this one at all. If you use you have the font weight for this one too, you can just include it. But Google is doing all this magic for you behind the scene, and that is why you need to pick the weight that you want. But these days, Google don't even give you this option again. It now include 100 to 900 depending on the font family that you're working with there. Like that. But I'm not going to name this in Warisola. It's just to explain what is going on there. So I'm going to call it Roboto like this so that it follow the same name as a font like that. But don't forget, anytime you are dealing with this thing, it's always good that you specify the family where that font is coming from in case the stuff is not loading like that. You know, don't forget this one when you put it online now, people are going to be using internet to connect to your site. So I mean, like the end their network is kind of poor, so it will default to the family where this roboto is coming from. And once that thing is downloading, then it will switch back to this one. The browser will do all this magic for you behind the scene. You don't need to worry yourself about that. So this is how this thing works. So, and then what we just did here is how you can include fonts on your page like that. And this is where I'll be stopping for today. And tomorrow we are going to continue from there. So this is a part one of the video. Tomorrow is going to be part two. We might actually have part three too because I want to pay attention to I want to explain this thing very well and give you some goodies that you need because this is the starting point. And if the starting point is not solid, there's no way other thing that will be happening later on will be okay there. So you need to know a lot of things that you need to do, or the reason why this thing have been done like that, not just me typing like or the way you see it in all those tutorial stuff. And then okay, type this one, type that one. You must make sure that you arrange it like this. Why am I doing it like that? That's what we are focusing on here. Why? Because that's how you can stand on your own. And when you see something later on, you'll be able to deal with it yourself. Not that you have to start looking for, oh, how am I going to do this one? And sometimes that's why you see that a lot of people, they are in tutorial error, because a lot of tutorial that they watch there like that is only focusing on doing this thing, but it's not really giving them why, and that's why they cannot stand alone. They always watch tutorial, but when they get to the time for them to do something, everything will go blank. Why? Because the tutorial they are kind of are focusing on is not telling them why. And you know that a lot of tutorial, they will not want this thing to go longer like that. And that is why I need to stop here, because it's almost like 1 hour here. And I don't want the thing to go more than an hour. So we break it down and you can focus on all these things. They're not just jam packing 10 hours video that people will not even watch, because we will have time. That number I said will be scaring people to open it up. But once you split the stuff in different video there, then once you watch one, oh, I'm okay with this one, then the next thing you move to the next one and so forth like that. So I will stop here. Any question before we call it a day? Let me stop the video because I don't want it to be longer than